Thank you for watching the budget tutorial recording for the Inspire Vancouver program. I'm going to get us started by sharing my screen and pulling up our program webpage. You can find that at inspirevancouver.org. You can find resources for your application, including the budget template that we will be reviewing today in this application resources page under the resources tab. You can find our other templates there. We have the letter of support template if you're working with a fiscal sponsor. We have templates for our application questions if you would like to be working in those in a Word document as opposed to the portal. And we also have an Excel spreadsheet so you can work on your budget, share that with other teammates before you enter it into the application portal itself. So all of that can be found at inspirevancouver.org, the resources tab, and then you're going to click on this application resources page. I have our template open in another screen, so I'm going to share that now. It is this Excel spreadsheet that you see on this side. And then I am going to walk you through how to take information from that spreadsheet and put it into the grant portal itself. And as I do that, I will sort of talk to you in more detail about how the template is laid out and how you will put your own project information into the template and then transfer the information to the portal when you're ready. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I am going to start a new application. Just going to click on apply for funding here and let's start an innovation application. The budget template is going to be the same for all of our grant programs. So I'm just using innovation for this example for now. So it starts you, if you haven't filled out any part of the application, if you're starting from scratch, it'll start you at the top and you're going to want to scroll down until you see this grant budget tracker. And there's going to be this blue edit button on the right-hand side. So let's open that up and take a look at it. So right now I am splitting my screen so that you can see both of the materials that I'm working with. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see what this grant budget tracker looks like in full. So when you come into it and it's completely blank, there is only one line item that you can fill out. There's a button to add more, but it fills in just a blank line item for you. And it also starts a blank column where you can select the period start and end dates. This is going to be the very first thing you see when you pull open this budget tracker. Going to slide that back closed and we will take a look at my budget template that I filled out. So for the purposes of this demonstration, I am going to pretend that I am running a sewing class for youth where they will be meeting maybe once a week and working on sewing projects, getting some instruction. And then at the end of their term, they're going to have a fashion showcase event. So you'll see that I have some line items on here related to those ongoing costs. We're going to purchase some new equipment. And then we also have some of these one-time costs related to the event. So I'm just going to slide over so you can see what this full template will look like when it's filled out compared to the budget tracker page. Let's get started. So the very first thing that you're going to do is you will need to enter the time periods for your grant. So if you are applying for an impact or comprehensive grant, you're going to need to put in all 3 time periods. If you're applying for an innovation grant, you are allowed to skip any time periods that you will not have grant activities or incur any grant costs. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to put in all 3 time periods. So our time periods are predetermined for the program. That means everyone who comes through our program is going to be working through the same time periods. So for the first one, you're going to need to put in November 1st, That time period is going to end on December 31st. For the next time period, you'll need to click this blue button here and enter in the next quarter. That one is going to start on January 1st, 2027. And that's going to end on March 31st, 2027. Click on that blue button again to enter in our third quarter. That is going to be April 1st of 2027 and end on June 30th. So they are broken into the 3-month time period, except for the first quarter, which unfortunately is a little bit shortened based on our grant rollout time period. Our grant term has 3 periods in it, and those are the same for all applicants. This is related to our reporting periods and our quarterly reports. So once we get into the reporting phase of your grant, you will be sharing your actuals compared to this budget that you're entering in with your application now. That's why those periods are predefined for the entire program. So I have the periods lined up here at the top that has given me 3 columns for me to enter in my grant budget request. Let's start this first line item. So I just scrolled all the way back over to the left. So now you can see the line item space where I can enter in text, the budget category where I can drop down from a menu. And if you scroll a little bit to the right, you will have these 3 request boxes where you can enter in dollar amounts. So the first thing that I have on my example budget is a stipend for 2 instructors. I'm going to enter that information in as text right here where it says line item. You click on it, it highlights the box in blue, and it will allow you to type or copy paste that line from your budget, that cell from your budget into this box. Now, budget category. So this is stipends for my instructors. So let's look at the budget category and enter what we think is the most appropriate here. So we have options for staff compensation, but for my example, we don't have staff. We are volunteers, and the volunteers receive a stipend as opposed to a salary. So I don't think that's the best fit. Let's go down and look at the non-staff compensation. I'm seeing one for artists and specialists, and I'm seeing one for educators. I'm going to pick educators for this one. Now, my instructors get a stipend, and that stipend is, let me see here, I took a note of it. Looks like $25 an hour for a 4-hour class that happens once a week. And that is adjusted for the 3-month quarter. So my class is only running in January through June, but I do have the instructors help me out maybe with some curriculum planning ahead of time, some project planning, maybe some admin work, that type of thing. So it looks like I have 200 in this box, and then I'll click on the next one. Scroll over, we have 1,800 and 1,800. Okay, we have that in there. Now, the budget form, if you keep scrolling over to the right, it will automatically calculate the total across that line item for all the periods where you've entered in costs. So that is coming to 3,800 so far. It also calculates the percentage relative to the total request. We've only put in one line item, so that line item represents 100% of the total so far. Now, there are some other boxes over here. If you continue to scroll to the right, I see total project budget, cash, in kind, and an area to leave comments. So as we work through some of these examples, we will talk about what those boxes mean and how to fill them out for your budget. But before we do that, let's go down to the next line item because I have a great example of when you would use the in-kind box. So I'm going to add a line item here. Now, this year for my pretend program, I'm very excited because I'm able to have a youth small business mentor give some of their advice to these youth who are making these fashion creations in my class. And they offered to do that in kind, so without cost. So let's see how we would record an in kind expense in the budget. First, I'm going to pick that category. I think that we should call this maybe the contractor or consultant category. Because I'm not using any of my grant funds to fund this expense because it's been donated to me, that won't show up in the requested line or in the total. Instead, I'm going to put the value of their services. They have a $500 fee that they're waiving for me in the in-kind box. Let's go back to the next line item. We're going to fill out that total project budget category last to double check our work. All right, as part of this, I'm also going to purchase 5 new sewing machines. So I have the cost estimated for that. That is going to be equipment. So I will use that budget category. And I'm going to be making those purchases before the class starts. So I'm putting that in my November to December category. All right. Next line item. I'd also like to, oops, I accidentally added 2. I'm also going to upgrade an ironing station. It'd be nice to have a gravity feed iron and maybe some sleeve boards to add to the professional look of these creations. So I am going to put that under equipment also. We've estimated that to be $300, and that is another expense that will happen before the class starts in January. Now I added 2 line items, so I'm just going to go ahead and type over this one. We also have expenses related to the fabric and notions for the students. Let's use that category. Let's call that supplies and materials, since they're going to be using that up during the course of the project. Put in the dollar amount for that. All right. Just working through this still. And of course, we need to have some snacks for the students because it is a 4-hour class. And you want them to be in the best position to participate as possible. So we do have a food and catering option as well. Looks like I've budgeted $400 per quarter in the snack category. Now I'm getting into, let's see here, the kind of expenses for the showcase event. So the first thing I have on here is the venue rental for the showcase. Gonna type that in. Gonna come back and take a look at this budget category. So what do we have for a venue rental? Let's scroll down in the list. I see rent under facility cost. Maintenance and repairs, upgrades, renovations. Oh, I see venue rental. So let's select that one. Now for the venue rental, the total cost is going to be $19.50, but I need to put down a deposit to hold the venue, and that's going to happen in the spring. So I'll put 500 of that for the deposit in my spring column, and then the remaining expense of $14.50 in the late spring. I guess one of them is going in that January to March period, and then the next one is going in the April to June period. Okay, we have the venue in there. We will be paying some musicians to perform the background music during the showcase. Gonna put in the musician stipends. Whoopsies. There we go. The category for that, let's go with artists, specialists. $500. That's coming out at the end of the year. Going to add another couple of line items. Look like we have some marketing costs related to printing posters and programs. We'll have $100 for that coming out of the third period. I'm just taking a peek at the other page to make sure I'm not missing any other in-kind expenses that I'll need to record. So let me just go ahead and fill out the rest of these quickly. We have event photography. It looks like I missed the categories for these. So going back to the printing costs, let's see what we have for that. I do see we have marketing, advertising, and then marketing materials. So I think since this is posters and our programs, it would make sense to just put that under marketing materials. The event photography, again, I'm going to go with that artist specialist fee. We will also have catering for our event. Putting that in food and catering and filling out that dollar amount. And then the last thing on our list, I would like to use this grant to pay for a portion of my organization's overall insurance. Since this program is only running a portion of the year, I am going to prorate that, or maybe I have other programs that are running simultaneously that I'm funding through other sources. I just want to put a portion of this grant towards insurance. So I will show you how to prorate that. And you can find an insurance category in the overhead dropdown. I would like to put $500 of this program's expenses towards that, and I am going to put it here at the end as well. Okay, so let's look at my total amount. It looks like I have requested $14,000 or $14,825. I'm going to scroll down to the math in my spreadsheet, and I'm seeing that total reflected as well. And my percentages also, they're adding up correctly to 100%. Okay. So I have entered in my expenses for this program, the expenses specifically that will be covered by the grant request. See, my request total is $14,825. Now, my total project budget might be bigger than that. I might be funding different parts of this program, either through in-kind donations or through existing revenue. And that's where you're going to fill in this total project budget column. So this total project budget is going to include your request. So for this one, that's going to be the $3,800. It's also going to include expenses that might be covered in kind or expenses that might be covered through existing cash in your organization's budget. So for the purposes of this very basic example, these two numbers, they're actually going to be the same. Now for the in-kind example, we will have the $500 in kind and $0 from the grant request and $0 from existing program revenues. So that total is going to be 500. I will basically go through the rest of these columns, kind of doing that same math. I'll look at what am I funding from this request, what am I funding in kind, and what am I funding from other cash sources. So for the rest of these, since this is a very basic template budget, these are going to be almost always the same. I'll just fill these in quickly, copying these over until we get to the insurance category. Remember, that's the one that I said I was only going to charge a prorated amount to the grant funding. The rest I was going to cover through other program revenue. So I'm just going to copy these over until we talk through that example specifically. Now for the insurance, I only put 500 towards my grant request. But when you look at the actual cost of my organization's insurance, let's call that $2,500. When the grant committee is reviewing these budget items and they see that there is a difference between the requested amount and the total project budget, that's when they're going to be looking at these columns over here to see if that is coming from in kind or if that is coming from the organization's other resources. So for this example, we are asking for $500 from the grant request to cover this $2,500 charge. None of that is in kind, so the total cash amount for that is going to be the $2,500. So in other words, when you go to fill out this cash column, that is going to reflect the total that you've requested plus any cash that you are contributing from other areas in your organization's budget. So I'm going to quickly fill out this column here to reflect that. All right, let's double check these totals and make sure that they match up. So I have the total amount reflected both in the budget tracker form itself and also in our template. It looks like the total project budget for this class that I'm asking funding for is showing $17,325. And the total cash amount is showing $14,825. Which is incorrect. When I entered in the amount for the prorated cost of the insurance, I forgot to include the amount that I'd already contributed from my other program revenue. So this and these two fields should match actually, because the insurance company did not give me that insurance in kind. I had to pay part of it from the grant and part of it from other sources. Okay, now this is matching up well. We also have a place where if you would like to leave any comments for staff or for the grant review committee, you can enter those in the comment field here. And then once your application has been processed, you could see staff feedback show up in the staff feedback column. Let's go ahead and copy these notes into the grantee comments. This is just a little explainer of how I calculated the stipend amount. Not required. That's just something that I have in there for my own reference. And then this explainer about the percentage of the overall insurance coming from this grant. Before I go any further, I'm going to hit save. And then I'm going to take a second look at this. Make sure things are filled out completely, that I have all these boxes entered. that everything is lining up in the correct time period. And I'm feeling good about this. So I'm going to hit save and close and feel good that my budget tracker has been filled out. Now, if you have any other questions for Inspire Vancouver staff, you can reach us at our email address. That's inspirevancouver@cityofvancouver.us. And we look forward to hearing from you and answering your questions as we move through the application period. Thanks for taking your time out of your day to watch this recording. We'll see you next time.